Hey guys, you like Atari? I would hope so. I love Atari. I love Atari so much I got this book. I don't know if someone gave this to me or if I bought it somewhere, but this is an awesome book. It's Art of Atari by Tim Lapitino. Artofatari.com. I don't know if this is... No, it's got nothing to do with Atari Age, I guess, but this is awesome. It shows all the artwork, and it talks about the artists that worked on all the amazing cover art of Atari. Atari cover art is like its own thing of like art. I sound like such a fucking idiot. But you guys that are familiar with Atari artwork, you know what I'm talking about. They have, it's like a specific art style, and they could make the most boring fucking game you could ever imagine look cool. Maybe this isn't a good example, but let's look at something that actually sucks ass. Like, I know it sucks. Like this. Tic-tac-toe. I don't have this game. It might be okay, but look how cool they make this look. Robots, androids, like astronauts shooting. It's because it's 70s art style, early 80s. They just don't make, you know, covers for video games like this anymore. You don't need to. Back then, they had to. I mean, to get people to buy these, there was no internet. There was just like some magazines maybe that would tell you whether the game was good or not. I'm not even sure. Like, there must have been magazines in the early days that had reviews in them. Dodge them. That's a pretty good game. Awesome artwork. Golf. This sucks. Adventure. There we go. That's absolute classic. You know, one of the first RPGs ever on console. Adventure RPG. I would say, I think they could have done a better job. Like, talk about like a contemporary game that's in the same genre. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons for the Intellivision. Better cover. More badass. This looks way too cartoony. I don't like the look of the dragon. Don't like it. Superman, that's a pretty important Atari game. Some people consider that like the first open world game, really, on console. Slot Racers, that's a cool cover right there. Night Driver, I do enjoy that game with the paddle controller. Outlaw. See, that's a nice artwork. That's a nice cover right there by John Enright. Maze Craze, I like that one. That's a cool cover. Breakout, that's one of my favorites for the system. That and Breakout 2 with the PAL controller. I could play that for ages. See, yeah, they just didn't know what to do with this cover art. That was the Sears version. They went with like kind of like a medieval style, and this was a concept art for Breakout, which they didn't use. Quite a bit cooler, I'd say. See, some of these are basically like 80s metal albums covers, like power metal covers. Starship. That was one of those really early. I think this was the first person space shooter on the system. Street Racer, Indy 500. I have this in the box actually, and with its exclusive controller. You need a special controller. It's a different variation of a PAL controller for this, and it's actually really neat because you turn it like all the way around, so you basically use it as like a steering wheel and you drive the car around. It's really neat to control, and it's just a cool early video game peripheral to have. Combat, of course, that's the classic two-player game. That's the box. The Atari box, I have that. Talking about different Ataris. Jaguar, I wish I would have bought a Jaguar, years ago. They're about $300 now if you want to get one. Hell with that. Atari Lynx. I would like a Lynx someday. It's a pretty impressive handheld. Probably the best handheld of the time as far as graphics. It was like the first 16-bit handheld. Atari XC, that is a very odd one. It's like some kind of weird hybrid PC thing they did like in between the 7800 and the Jaguar. 2600, of course, the absolute classic. So much so that when people say Atari, they just automatically think of this. But Atari made all kinds of other systems, like the 5200, one of the worst designed controllers in video game history, but actually a pretty decent console, from what I've heard. I don't have a 5200, I have the 7800, and I was actually pretty impressed with it. I like it. And mine's modded so I can play it on with AV. So the Atari 2600 games look a little better when I play it on here, just because it's a better display. That controller is absolute dog shit. Like, this is why I don't understand. Like, Atari just made two of the worst designed controllers ever. Like, I literally don't understand how you're supposed to hold that thing and play the games. It's just so uncomfortable, so ungodly, unintuitive to hit those side buttons and hold that damn thing. It's huge too. Food Fight, that's a great 7800 game. That's one of the best for the system. Some of their old arcade artwork. Pole Position, man, that's a nice looking sit-in cabinet. Look at this one. This is really interesting for Gotcha. They say they actually had to get rid of this because look at the controls. It's like two balls that you put your hands on. It's basically like you're holding two boobs. It's like, this is just weird. Like, why? What is happening? He's just like holding onto her waist from behind while she's like leaping into the arcade machine. Like, what the fuck is this supposed to be about? Gotcha. It's weird. It's like he's chasing her and grabbing her. I won't go on forever because I know no one's gonna watch this shit, but very cool book. I like learning about Atari, and I like collecting Atari, obviously, and I like learning about like the early games they made that, revolutionized the industry. And Atari is just so important in video game industry, and it's an American company, which is very neat because, as you know, I mean, there's not many American-made video game companies, really. I mean, especially back then. It was mostly, you know, Nintendo and Sega took over after Atari shit the bed and just about destroyed the whole industry. Thankfully, Nintendo saved video games forever.